So not long after having local elections in England, and the results were maybe as polling expected. Maybe there's a few surprises in there. I suppose it really depends on where you live. But in West Lancashire and indeed in our neighbouring boroughs and areas, there was a few pleasant realizations from the most recent local elections. Certainly, a few talking points. So on that, with me today, we have a collective merry band of Greens with us. I think we're going to have to start with introductions, I suppose, more than any, first and foremost, before we get to discussions on various aspects of the local elections. So for those of you new to the West Lancashire Green channels, my name is Paul French. I've been, and I can't even remember how long I've been with the Green Party for now. It must be about 5 years-ish, 5 years. And been involved in a few of the election cycles so far, with the last national and with the more recent local. But enough about me. We'll sort of go around the rotation. I think we'll start with Reece. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Reece. I've been in the Greens. I think it's an active member, maybe 5 years or something now. But voted Greens since I was like 18. But kind of over the last few years got really involved with West Lancs and still quite involved and looking to be even more involved going forward.
Fantastic. We'll shift over to Suzie.
Hi, so I have voted Green for a number of years, but only actually became a member around the time that Zach started to lead the Greens. So I'm quite new to it. But yeah, I've been quite involved, especially in the local elections more recently in May.
And then last but not least, Olga.
Hi. So I've been a member of the Green Party for the last 7 years, and very quickly got involved with my local party and started leafleting. I'm now co-chair, and in the last 3 years have been campaigning in a very focused fashion, because I've been the lead candidate in Chorley Southwest and was elected 4 weeks ago. So I am actually Councillor Cash of the Green Party, and I am Chorley's first ever Green Party councillor, which is a real honour. And it was a really really focused team effort for the last 6 years to get our first councillor. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, you're the rock star of this broadcast today, because as you mentioned, you are the elected of the four of us. Well done on that. We'll get to a few points on that as well during the course of this episode. But I think we'll start with maybe just a question to the group, just on the motivations for becoming a Green. Because it's a big effort, I think, to get involved with political campaigning and political electioneering. And it's brave as well to certainly an nth degree. But motivation, I'm interested in what motivates people enough to become politically active, because of, again, maybe just how much effort it might take, because, well, it doesn't pay. The grassroots level, it really is driven by motivation, and I'm intrigued to what that is. So I think we'll go in reverse cycle, maybe, because Olga, you've got to the point of being elected, but what was the initial motivation that 7 years ago?
So I was quite involved with environmental activity and campaigns when I was an undergraduate and a postgraduate, and was a member of Greenpeace and did some actions for them as part of a sort of local group. The road protests in the 90s came by the town where I lived, so was very involved with that. And it was really inspiring and changed me in many ways. But, as I grew older and focused on my career, I kind of felt the Green movement was moving on its own. Democracy was working, and it really was. I'm a Spanish citizen, so when the whole debate about Brexit started, I realised that actually I felt very worried about the state of things in the UK where I live, and wanted to be more involved. And as I got more politically active, I saw that most people have a party, and because of my spiritual beliefs and because of my environmental background, the Green Party was the only party. I mean, I'm a real nature lover in many, many ways, so that the Green Party was the only option really, and so did a little bit of leafleting in the 2019 European elections as part of my European movement involvement for the Greens, and then, as I'm sure most of us here will know, and anybody listening, once you're in, it's a vortex. And I suppose the most motivating thing is very quickly you start meeting people, you start building a community in your local area of people who have that environmental and social justice commitment. And so, I got more and more involved. I don't think I ever thought I'd become a councillor. And I mean, now on the other side, I see I'm made for it. But at the time, I remember being on a litter pick and somebody saying, have you ever thought about standing as a councillor? And I thought they were mad. And it's often the case, particularly for women, that this is not something they naturally imagine themselves into. And, I stood as a paper candidate, as we call them, for a while. But, very quickly, we've built up the local party. There's been an energy, and it's only, with the Hannah effect and the Zach effect before it, it's only grown. So before you know it, passion takes over, and I've really enjoyed the campaigning, particularly at the local level. It's been life-changing. So beware what you step into.
Yeah, and I think as well, because the West Lancashire Green Party, I mean, we kind of reformed around 2019, 2020 as well. So I would imagine now, we've had a few years building that up as well. And I think you can see within the party as well, there's a few people who've been paper candidates in the past, but are probably at that point now as well, maybe like yourself, that are considering, actually, you know what, maybe I should run as a more sort of purposeful sort of campaign maybe next time round. So you can see the rumblings from within a few of the members base, which is absolutely brilliant to see as well. And corresponding to, I suppose, the growth in popularity of the Green Party generally as well. So maybe it's just mirroring that as well. Suzie, newest member certainly, relatively speaking. What was your kind of motivation? Why was what was the drive for wanting to become much more active, particularly with the Greens as well? Because you did say you just joined roughly just a short while before the most recent local elections, was it?
Yeah, it was. I joined as Zach became quite prolific in I suppose the algorithms that fed my social media. As I had always been a Green supporter, but I hadn't necessarily been a member of my local Green Party. And I think I moved house, so I'm originally from Manchester, so I moved to West Lancs about 5 years ago. Probably around the same time that I've always been a bit of an activist, so very much working in the social justice world. Supporting disabled people, and that's the area in which I work as well, health and social care. And also being a woman of a certain age, got to say it, I'm just a bit fed up with the world and what's going on in the world, and how attitudes and community leadership and everything it seems to be going to pot, really, doesn't it? So I thought, this is a movement that I can really get behind. I feel heard, I feel understood, and I wanted to work alongside like-minded people. So nobody's ever got any spare time, like you say, but I thought, hey, let's give it a go. I'm going to become a member and see how I can support our local membership. And then I was approached by West Lancs Greens to ask if I would run as a paper candidate, a cardboard candidate, is it? I don't even know what the proper term is. And I thought,
I think it's pretty much all interchangeable, but yeah,
yeah,
the paper, cardboard, yeah.
some form of pulp anyway. But yes, I said I will put my name down because I knew that living where I live in West Lancashire, I had no chance of actually being elected as a councillor. So the time commitments and everything, I knew that wouldn't actually happen this time round. But it's really whet my appetite, and a bit like yourself, Olga, I'm suddenly thinking, actually, we need to do more conversation. We need to get more community involvement. We need to be more open to really address some of the issues that are present within our communities, and show that there are people that, yes, are very busy, but we want to work together to make positive change. But I think the main thing for me with the Green Party is they have always been seen as very environmental. And so actually that was something until recently that put me off a little bit, because I think it's really difficult sometimes because of the pressures that we face raising families and just getting by, these days. It's more the social justice aspect that really appeals to me. And being able to listen to some of, the Green Party talks and conversations around, you can't address environmental issues without addressing social issues, and vice versa, that really appealed to me. And it made me realise that actually we can all do our bit to save the environment, as well as to save us as a society and as communities. So I think that was the final thing that really got me on board with Greens.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the social justice sort of policies and the aspects of the Greens as well is, I think it's a reason why Zach's doing quite well. Because I was saying, I mean, I really liked our previous leadership. I thought they were professional, but they were maybe a wee bit too safe. And yes, I think some of the execs come along and really kind of amplified what is the relevancy of the Greens towards social issues more widespread, because we were kind of pigeonholed as being all about trees and water supplies and things like that. Things that matter, obviously, but they don't really captivate the imagination, I think, maybe more so than some of the points that are being amplified now by Zach. And the guy's everywhere as well. That's the thing. He's forgive me, I can't remember which. I think it might have been you, Suzie, as well, saying that you've seen plenty of Zach on social media as well, and he doesn't turn down an opportunity, does he? Like, he is everywhere. Like, and it's working. I mean, it's absolutely working. Reece, because you're, and Olga and Suzie, I hope you don't mind me saying, probably the youngest head in this conversation, but you've been doing a lot of work as well with the Young Greens, haven't you?
So yeah, I was 16 when the Brexit referendum happened. So I think that was like the first kind of glimpse into politics that I had, and it was really disappointing. And I think initially that kind of like put me off politics a bit, just because it was like, I don't think there's anything I can do to make people change their minds. Like, it's very much something I can't help with. And then it kind of got to a few years later. So after I turned 18, I did vote in the 2019 election. And I think it was around like 2021, 22. I was out as trans then. So I'd kind of thought about it a bit. And then there was new legislation putting out. And that's kind of when transgender issues started becoming kind of political football. And I kind of realized I just don't have the luxury to not be involved. Like, I have to care and I have to try and make a difference, because if I don't, and if people like me don't, then it's going to get so much worse. So I think kind of it was around like, when West Lancs was forming, I was like, we need to do something. I need to kind of at least try and say something and try and help influence people, and try and, if people are going to sit down and make decisions about my rights as a human being, then the least I can do is try and influence those decisions. So yeah, it kind of just, it was more felt like I had to than really wanted to. It was, and I'm glad I did. I'm like really enjoy being a part of it. And like Olga said, it is kind of this vortex when you get involved of just, you're going to keep going. And yeah, like at first I definitely couldn't stand the idea of potentially being a councillor because that's terrifying. And then quite recently I've been, you know what, actually, yeah, I could do that, and I want to do that, and I kind of want to take it as high as I can go with it.
It's kind of like just sort of tiptoeing into growing the growth of confidence, isn't it? To be able to actually think to yourself, you know what? Yeah, I think I could get my name on a ballot and actually properly go for it as well. Like, and I think we were talking as well just before we started broadcasting about your more recent activities as well within Manchester, because that kind of brings me in then as well, actually, to my sort of next question for us all, like, was what does sort of campaigning involve for a political party? What does it involve with, in our case, the Green Party? So it's probably a good place to start with. What have you been up to more recently?
So yeah, I've been helping a bit in Manchester because I know quite a few people that live there, and they very much have quite a different version of campaigning that we do, just because they're in a very different area, very, very different demographic. So kind of been helping some of their very newly elected councillors at looking at some of the events and things that they can go to. Obviously, Manchester's very big on protests, so that's been the kind of thing for the last 4 weeks. Is kind of getting involved doing that and learning a lot more about how they campaign compared to how we campaign, and just quite how different it is. So a lot less door knocking there and a lot more just public appearances, and like social media is such a big thing there for people. I think it's kind of been interesting to just see how different the campaigns are and how different everywhere approaches it. And it obviously has to be different because it's a different demographic. So it's been quite interesting to get a different perspective to what we have here.
Yeah, and then it's I think when you go to a place like, I can imagine, because I've not campaigned at all Manchester, but or maybe Liverpool, or the bigger cities, the bigger areas, but I can imagine it would just be a different operation as well compared to West Lancs, where it's just not as highly populated. It's not a more city-like environment as well. So the lessons that you learn from a campaign there, they might not be directly sort of applicable to areas like West Lancashire, but you'll definitely learn lessons, though. I mean,
I think it shows you where the crossover is as well between what people want, what politics are important in certain areas, and quite how different they really are. Like the needs of people in West Lancs, especially for the local elections, is so different to people in Manchester. And I think it kind of, like, I'm sure we'll get on it a bit more later, but it's something that I don't think even I realized when I first got into politics, just quite how different it is. It's really not the same thing. Like local politics and national politics, they're two entirely different campaigns. And I think that's really been highlighted to me. Like going and helping Manchester is just talking to people around there about what things are important to them compared to what's important around here. It is very, very different.
Yeah. And then Suzie is the newest member as well. What aspects of campaigning, what were you able to get involved in? Because that would have been your first cycle, I suppose, if it's the best way to describe it, of electioneering. Everybody's pushed for time as well. Jesus Christ, we're all struggling to fit in everything that we want to do in a given week. But what were you able to sort of get involved with in the lead up to the last locals?
Yeah, so I did what I could, and I think that was one of my concerns, really, because I think most people, when you become an active member of your local Green Party, and you are, really time poor, because I work full time, I'm raising a family and all the rest. So I was really concerned, like, I want to throw myself into this, but I physically can't. But then when I agreed to be a paper candidate, then it was felt, it would be good to get some leaflets out so that people are aware of their options when it came to the local elections. So we did actually end up doing quite a lot of walking around the village and popping posters and flyers through people's doors. And yeah, that was time consuming. It's so much easier when you've got big teams behind you. So thinking back to some of those Manchester campaigns, like when Hannah was campaigning, Hannah the plumber was campaigning, we had hundreds and hundreds of people turning up for, you know, that huge campaign. And that makes such a difference, because there's something that really people want to join something like that. It looks like, so I can be part of that. I think local elections in small, quite rural villages like our own, it can be quite lonely. And so I did rope my daughter, my teenage daughter, into coming and doing it with me, because I was like, I don't want to go out and post things on my own. And I did have help from a couple of people in the village as well. But I think it's what I learned from that is that we need even more of that going forward, because it's really difficult to get your message across when there's a number of candidates available, some really strong views from different parties. But a bit like yourself, Reece, it really highlighted to me the difference of understanding as to what local elections are about, as opposed to national and party specific elections, really, because and I suppose that's my main worry with being part of the Green Party, is that actually I'm not sure how much our communities understand about the democratic process and how it all works in this country. And I suppose going back to my social justice roots, that's the bit that concerns me the most, and probably one of the things that drives me on to continuing to support West Lancs Greens, is trying to get that message through.
Just realised my camera was, or my microphone was muted. I'm not sure. But yeah, I was just saying, it goes back to, I suppose, points as well made with regards to, you know, just trying to demystify really what the Greens actually stand for, because you know, we're biased, but I'm gonna sound biased deliberately, unapologetically. Our policies are likable. It's just that they are not out there. They're not as widely known as what they should be. A lot of the things that people are wanting change for, they don't necessarily look at the Green Party and think, yeah, they're going to solve wealth inequality. They're going to solve, you know, which is a grand bigger issue, and they're not going to be able to solve some of the smaller local issues as well. But actually, our manifesto is pretty much geared up for exactly that. It's just that it just doesn't get projected as being much more socially applicable, away from the environmental stuff as well. So I think we definitely are getting better at that, and I do think it's again, go back to the point that I made earlier. It's a top down. You know, from Zach down, it's getting better because of the leadership that we have now. I think that those messages are getting out there. Like, and I'll gear us towards maybe the power of social media as well in a little bit. But Olga, I mean, you're elected. What was, if you could pick any sort of variables of campaigning, because there's a whole bunch of different ways that one may campaign if they have the resources, if they have the bodies behind them to be able to you know, do everything that they want to do. But what do you think the most valuable, from experience now, because you are elected, what do you think the most valuable parts of campaigning are?
So I think, if I could, in terms of why I won, and this time in particular, because I've stood before, is not to do with the leaflet and not to do with the 6-week cycle of the election. It is because I am a local campaigner and have become one. So I'm a very active citizen in my local area. So the things, and it just as Reece was saying, you know, it's very different depending on the different areas that you are campaigning in. And when we spent a lot of time when we first went out and wanted to get people to know that the Green Party existed in Chorley. You know, we did a lot of surveying, we did a lot of door knocking, and we got to know the area and got to know what people were concerned about. And it is really hyper-local issues, you know, the state of the roads, some of the private management arrangements in the roads, so, you know, I've become a really active citizen that always reports the potholes, always reports the dog fouling. If there's an issue going on, I'm onto the council to speed it along, the housing associations, advocating for residents, building development, making sure that the planners are sticking to what they said they'd do, and it is that year-round work, and that kind of ties in a little bit with the change of leadership that you've mentioned. This is Green Party behaviours for a long, long time. Zach has put it into the media and raised our visibility, but the leaders before him did this very steady work of building up that kind of presence in local areas, that very targeted to what the local area needs, and training us to really understand what it is to be a public servant.
Yeah,
So
they did a very
I
good
think,
job. Like, I was always very happy with them, but I
but
always want them
see,
to
my
be more sort of
contention is,
aggressive with the
Paul.
message as well, though.
Yeah, but my contention is, Paul, that we couldn't have a Zach before without having the other leaders too.
No, we
We've
could not.
evolved
I
as a
think you're absolutely
party.
right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I stand by that. I think
Mm,
Zach is fantastic, and he's building on something that has been growing for many, many years, and we
yes.
couldn't have had a Zach without that
Mm,
that activity. So I'm a real advocate of that local champion behaviour that was really the Green Party recommendation for local activists, and really then the election, it just becomes telling people about what you've been doing for the whole year because you've been there, and that's what people say, that they trust me, that that I've been active in the area, and it is just as Suzie was saying, it is about empowering people to feel that they can be heard, to participate in democracy, and there's a lot of work to be done to get people to understand the difference between local government and national government, and know what they're voting for. And I think that is actually, even if, you know, of course we win and we're winning all the time, but even if we had no councillors, one thing that we have done as activists is really extend the understanding of what democracy is about. And I think that, for 5 years when we didn't win, at least I was satisfied that I had done that, really kind of activated an understanding of democracy in my local area. And I think that is wonderful.
Do you think that's one of the biggest challenges then that campaigners face in terms of just trying to understand on the doorsteps as well? I suppose whenever you're speaking to people as well, is that one of the biggest challenges to campaigning, or is there other issues? Well, because campaigning's great, canvassing and campaigning in general, it is a great, really exciting process to be a part of. But I mean, it is riddled with challenges as well, and like, I suppose, yeah, what, like, from your experience now of getting to the point of being elected, what was some of the bigger challenges that you had to face, not even in this local election or the most recent, but maybe just down the years? What were some of the bigger challenges that you think are part of it?
They change all the time. When we first started, people were talking to us about very hyper-local issues, and that has been fascinating to get to know an area really well. It's not the area I live in, and that's actually quite nice because when I'm there, it's very people recognise me the whole time, so it's quite nice to go home and have a bit of a rest from it. And so there's getting to know the hyper-local area, but of course, the political landscape has changed massively in the last 5 years. So. Coinciding with the Zach moment, people and the parties that are at the moment generating lots of discussion on social media, suddenly a lot of the discussions on the doorstep are about national issues and particularly about immigration, and so that becomes a really challenging one to but again, I mean, I'm a teacher by trade, a university teacher by trade, so having conversations with people in which I feel that we're having a polite and interesting debate, that where I'm explaining a way of seeing it that I think is a solution-based approach that is based on fairness. There are enough resources to go around as long as we distribute them fairly, and so I really enjoy those conversations. I really like advocating for people in my local area, so that's been, and sometimes you don't know where to start with it, but in time nowadays, I've got no qualms about writing to my local MP or writing to national bodies about injustices that I see, and beginning to get a bit of traction of seeing that at least that can be a topic of discussion at local level. So that feels really exciting. So the challenge is making space for it. But as I think we've all said, it makes space for itself because it is really exciting. It is really empowering to you and to other people. And of course, the Green Party in recent years has changed massively. We used to have a mailing list of 144, and now it's like 600. So we're always growing. This last campaign, I'd say one of the big differences, I had become a better campaigner and a much more involved year-round campaigner, which I think makes all the difference. You knowing what you're doing and you doing it year-round and not turning up for your vote, for asking for a vote 6 weeks before an election. But I think the biggest change also was the growth of membership in the Green Party, which meant that we did all the things we normally do, but we did them with a lot less anxiety because there was a lot more people, and that people power is amazing. So yeah, this is definitely our moment. We have really good solutions to all these problems that are being talked about, and yeah, I would struggle to say what the challenges are because I think it is so exhilarating. And so, when people talk to me about how depressing it is, what's going on in the outside world, I forget because I'm around people who are enthusiastic, want to see change, are creating change, have a really positive future focus. So and then I remember how bad things are.
Yeah, you might be falling victim to an echo chamber, maybe, but no, no. I mean, it's. I mean, you need those people. You need to surround yourself with those people as well, don't you? Like, otherwise, your campaign is one, less likely to work, and two, going to be an experience akin to pulling teeth as well. So no, you need the people who are forward looking and positive around you as well, because I mean, if like yourself, you're putting yourself forward, you're getting yourself out there, you're putting your name out there, and we know the politics can be a little bit hostile as well, so you need that base of positivity and progressiveness and forward looking.
Yeah.
To just see you through, and just be supportive.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was elected the weekend after, A, I was showered with congratulations, and B, the trolling was unbelievable. But I was able to see that the trolling wasn't about me. It was about people's anxieties and people's frustrations with the political system. And these are people who don't know me. And so all the insults they threw at me, it was quite miraculous how it just kind of bounced off me. But that is a real challenge. And I've got used to people slamming the door on my face because they're not interested in the Green Party perspective, and actually our visibility has made that worse. We're not fluffy Greens anymore, so people do know what we stand for, and have sometimes a very positive reaction to our new leadership, and sometimes a much more vocal one. So that can be challenging, but I'm up for it. I suppose it is quite upsetting at the beginning. But
yeah, I can imagine. Like it's even as well, just from the campaign and I've done as well, because I try and myself and focus more on the social media stuff. But yeah, you see it, even if it's not directly. I mean, when I'm posting for the Greens, it's under the banner of, it's behind the title of West Lancashire Greens. So I know that anything that comes through to the comments there isn't going to be for me specifically. But I mean, it's quite venomous at times, and it's riddled as well with disinformation. And it's hard to combat that. If I was to sort of pick a challenge myself, it would be disinformation. I think, just generally speaking, people who are deliberately misinformed. But it's the biggest challenge is trying to, again, maybe online as well, on social media.
But what you said, Paul,
with people who just don't want to have their mind changed as well. Like, you can tell that some people are very, very happy to have the approach that they currently hold.
But people aren't like that in real life. That behind a computer, people behave like that.
Yeah,
There's
an online and there's an offline version of the same people, isn't it?
But what you said before, Paul, is really helpful, because actually one of the ways I found my political voice was actually for a long time doing pages for political movements, and actually that allowed me to kind of experiment with having a voice and not having to do it as myself. And so I think that if somebody would be worried about door knocking, doing that sort of social media aspect behind a kind of Green Party identity is a really safe way of finding who you are in the political sphere. And I hadn't thought about it, but for a long time I did that for the European movement for my local branch. And actually that was a really good acclimatization phase, because you get to, it is venomous, but you learn to kind of ignore it, I think, really, and not take it personally, which I think is a really big part of the kind of mental armory you need to be, you know, compassionate and kind to these people who are justifiably angry, and then need to channel that into social transformation, not this destruction that we have at the moment.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not going anywhere. In fact, if anything, it's just, you know, the increased reliance on social media for political campaigning is just, you know, it's ballooning as well, you know. So yeah, it's either like it or lump it, maybe, for good or for ill, as sort of one dimensional and as maybe unuseful as that philosophy might be at times to someone who is in the firing line. But it's unfortunately
What wins votes is campaigning and talking to people. Is my, you know, is my experience.
Suzie, in your experience so far, I mean, what's the for individually, or what do you see maybe as being the bigger challenges for campaigning for, I suppose, anybody like yourself who's maybe you've recently joined us, but there may be others as well who are maybe on the fringes of thinking, you know what, actually, I think I need to maybe get out there and do a wee bit more. But what do you see maybe as being some of the, like a challenge maybe for consideration?
I think some of those points that you've raised there that actually puts people off. They wonder, you know, I even myself, I didn't particularly want to do campaigning. I was really nervous about door knocking because there is a lot of divisiveness out there, and I don't like arguing with people. I'd rather have, you know, like just a nice conversation with somebody. But some people just aren't ready for that. Anger isn't something that worries me at all. I think lots of people are very angry about lots of different things. And I've done community organising for many years in my roles in health and social care and in disability rights. And a lot of people just want to be heard. And I think if we can spend that time, it's finding the time that's the challenge. But if we can all spend a little bit more time just listening to people and finding out what really matters to them, that's when you start to form relationships and trust and camaraderie between people. And I think that's what the Greens do really well. So we meet people where they are, even if they are really angry about something. You know, in local elections, it could be potholes or dog poo on the streets, like you said before, Olga. But let's just listen. Let's hear that, and then try and find those solutions together, rather than it turning into what can be, like you say, really quite a venomous exchange of opinions and words. Everyone is entitled to that opinion. We just need to perhaps sit back and listen. I think the thing that frustrates me, though, is the use of media at the moment. Obviously, we have like algorithms designed. And so I know that I surround myself with people that have similar values on Instagram and LinkedIn. And so I'll see their feed a lot more. But every now and then when something, you know, that's really opposing my own personal values and views on especially our political situation at the moment, that crops up, and I do feel really anxious about it. And I think, goodness, you know, what can I do to try and prevent this? And I don't want to slip into that being a keyboard warrior type person and saying, oh, what a load of rubbish, and using, you know, trying to offend people.
I love being a keyboard warrior.
Oh no, it's not me at all. I haven't got the time.
Picking out somebody and just going for it.
But instead, for me, it's about arming that, you know, sort of arming that person with facts, because there is a lot of, you know, falsehood circulating out there, even down to like the images that we see being created through AI, which are just the horrific. I would be heartbroken if someone did something like that to me and it went out on the internet. not for myself, but for my teenage children. You know, you sort
Yeah,
of
there was a
think
Labour,
that
there's a
there's a
Labour MP as
wider
well, isn't brought a lawsuit against Elon Musk and Grok. I can't remember the exact details of it, but yeah, I just remember that being a wee bit of a headline yesterday as well. Like, and I mean, for good reason as well. Like, but yeah, very, very similar to what you're alluding to as well, with regards to fake imagery and what have you. But it's the next
Yeah.
sort of maybe big battle between technology and reality, I suppose. And it's something
Yeah.
that we have to contend with as well, maybe at a national and a local level as well. Like,
Definitely.
Reece, in terms of again being the youngest head in the room, challenge. Do you think is it too stereotypical to say that younger people are less politically engaged, or am I just generalizing? Because I mean, last I looked, the Greens do have a good share of the young vote. But do we see enough of them? I know, obviously, you're going to see because you're in. I'm very active within the Young Greens, but could it be better? Maybe is the way I'll give it to you in terms of that question. Could it be? Could there be more
Yeah, I think
in the
young
Young Greens,
people.
and could there be more generally involved in politics?
Yeah, I think young people were for a very long time just very disengaged with politics. I think for a similar reason that I said, it's just our entire mindset kind of going into it was just there is nothing we can do. Like it is already, it's too far gone. There's nothing like any of us are going to say to make a difference. I think what I'll say were like challenges, and I very much want to talk about the positives of social media, but I'll wait for us to get to that. Social media has gained an awful lot of young voters, and it's definitely got young people engaged in politics where they wouldn't have been before. They're not ideal candidates for door knocking and canvassing the same way. Like living in uni halls or like flats in the middle of a town, you're not going to have people coming to your door and talking to you about politics. And so I think automatically you already kind of weren't getting the same options as other people and the same information as other people, where that has changed quite a lot now. And I think there definitely are a lot more young people involved than there used to be. Like, unfortunately, there seems to be quite a lot of young people in reform as well. So I do think it is kind of universally happening that young people are kind of getting involved. I guess for a similar reason that I said, it's just that I think we've got past an interest in politics being a luxury anymore. Like we can't not care about politics because like you might not care about it, it cares about you. Like, and I
Or
think
as I say to my
yeah, like
students, if you don't do politics, politics will do you.
yeah, I think like in terms of like challenges, like it's been covered already. Like social media, I think is probably the biggest challenge we have. I will like happily talk about how it's also probably the second greatest asset the Greens have, but as a challenge, it is impossible to navigate, and the amount of misinformation on there is ridiculous. It takes one person to say one thing and it get taken the wrong way, and suddenly everyone knows about it. Like really
There's an
commonly, something that
omnipresence.
yeah, like something that came up so much in the local elections as a knock on the Greens was legalizing drugs. And it was all like so much of,
Seen that
oh,
as
they're going to
well.
legalize drugs. I'm
Comment
like,
sections
they're
and
not.
what
Like,
have you. Yeah.
yeah, decriminalizing and legalizing not the same thing. But there's no room to argue with people that are so adamant that they're right. And when there are so many, like you said, the algorithm, so many things are being pushed to people to say, oh, like the Greens think this, that they're not going to get changed so easily as to one person commenting and saying, no, you're wrong. This is what it actually says. So I think it very much is a very big challenge that we have to kind of get used to. There's no real way around it. Like social media is going to continue to play a much bigger part in politics than it ever has before. And I think it's going to continue to do that and it's going to keep getting more influential. So we kind of need to do what we can to adapt to it, really.
Yeah, because it's very easy to pick out, and I mean we have rightfully the sort of the negative aspects of it posing a challenge to campaigning, but it's also vital as well.
Yeah.
And just as you
Again, like
mentioned
I
as well
said, I
with
could
the
happily talk about like the positives. Like,
yeah, you know what? We'll actually maybe get an episode on social media
yeah.
campaigning because
Oh, yeah.
it's got so many different caveats that aren't as obvious to people that aren't involved in
Well,
politics and
yeah, I think
campaigning as well,
it's,
because they only see little bits of it every now and then when they're doom
yeah.
scrolling. But
And it's like
there is a
really
lot
quickly,
to it.
like on terms of it, like being positive is just the Greens, whether people know this or not when they're listening, like the Greens don't accept corporate donations. We don't have anywhere near the level of money that Reform do. I think like the last
Not,
quarter we had like
we haven't amassed 10 million from crypto bros, for
yeah.
example.
Well, I think like the last quarter that was recorded, we got 150,000 and Reform got 10 million.
Yeah.
Like we do not have the funds that Reform have. We can't send out the same amount of information that they can send out. We can't buy front pages of the newspaper. Like what we do have is social media, and that is free. And we can campaign on there and we can put information on there. And it does kind of, it is one of the playing grounds where it's actually fair. Like we can go face to face with Reform in some way because there's no advantage to you being rich on the internet. Like you will just have the same impact as long as people
More
engage with it and people do
democratized,
engage
really, in
with
a
it.
way, isn't it? Or can be
Yeah.
more democratized, even though that's theory of social media it being better for democracy is highly contested. But in that sense, we might well consider it
Oh
to
yeah,
be
very
as
much.
such. So I suppose
And it
that
has,
brings us to sorry.
Oh, it has like without a doubt been the reason that we've done so well in the last year. Zach is fantastic. His influence has been carried by social media. Like everything that he
says
does,
no
everything
to
gets
no opportunity. Says no to no little opportunity. He's just everywhere.
yeah, he's everywhere
but
all
again,
the time.
rightfully, he absolutely should be. Like, because it's like you said, it's free. It's the way that we will optimize the message. And I suppose that brings us to maybe the last sort of consideration as well for our first episode is opportunities for the Greens. What way, shape, or form do you see something maybe, Reece, with regards to social media and Greens? An opportunity there evermore.
We are like consistently getting better at it. It is something that I think locally we need to get better at. Not necessarily us, but all local parties need to just get a bit better with it. And of course also kind of accept how big of a play it is now. I think it's quite easy. We obviously had all of our own internal information on how to win elections. We had loads of information from the past on how to do well, and it does work. Like all it is exact example of how that advice works. But I think it's quite quick now for people to go, oh, we don't need social media, we've not needed it in the past. And that's not true. It's very much changed over the last 12 months, especially with Zach's influence, especially with Reform's rise to kind of power. Like social media is crucial, and I think it is just going to take a lot of effort from a lot of people to kind of just get the right training, get people to understand how it works, get insane amount of content made and posted to just kind of
that's it. It does take a lot though, doesn't it? When you don't have the millions like Reform do to actually hire staff and pay
have
them
people paid to do it
to do this for you. I mean, we're reliant on just free time, which is it can be difficult to come by. Like,
oh yeah, it's extremely hard, and I think it's something that people don't really realize about politics doing this is that the people that are coming and knocking on your doors, the people who are sat here doing this podcast, people who sit and campaign, they're not paid to do it. We're doing it because we want to do it, because we think it's important to do it. And I think it is a disadvantage of the Greens. We're already set much further behind than the other parties just because we don't have that freedom yet. We don't have loads of money coming in. Obviously, the more councillors we get, the more MPs we get, the better off we're going to end up being. So it will consistently get better. Obviously, our numbers have gone from 70,000 to 230,000. All those people donate. That's obviously going to make a big difference, and hopefully that difference can kind of mean better social media training and better resources to go out and kind of be able to have more training days and have people kind of keeping up to speed and getting used to how to kind of manage this stuff now.
Yeah, just create more opportunities for us down the ways as well. I feel like
we
really do have a good blend. Yeah. And I was going to say we've got a really good blend here of insights for like the sort of the first few topics that we wanted to cover today. Because from maybe a younger person's perspective, then back to Susie's new member perspective as well. Like, but was it? I suppose maybe Suzie was there a sort of recognition from your standpoint as well about opportunities, politically speaking, for the Green Party? Is that what did you see it from, before you signed up? as a bit of an outsider perspective, did you see the Greens having opportunities going forward? Was that a bit of the sort of the attraction for joining, and then sort of like how did that look or potentially look?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it was when I started to hear the messages that actually we wanted to look at social justice, as well as, you know, maintaining a focus on environment as well. But it felt like something that I could more positively relate to and hopefully influence as well, and feel part of. So I think the biggest thing that the Green Party has going for it is that we have demonstrated that we are a party that listens. So because we don't have donors in our back pocket, you know, sort of telling us what we can and can't talk about politically, what we are allowed to, you know, try and focus communities on, we can actually listen to what communities want to focus on. I think we need to really continue to align ourselves with some more progressives, especially, you know, people like, I think one of the things for me was Gary's Economics. I don't know if anybody follows him.
I am halfway through his book, quite literally halfway through the trading game. It's really enjoyable.
Yes.
Because the way it's written, you can hear his accent as you're reading
it.
And just the way he explains some of his, you know, some of the descriptions for some of the people that he met or whatever. It's a humorous book. Like, you know, you find yourself laughing out loud sometimes. Like, so, yeah.
It's quite sad in parts as well, because it really demonstrates that sort of that hierarchy that we have in society, and the fact it is so difficult to challenge, you know, that there is class war in England. I know when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was very much like a lot of the people that I was with, we'd always described ourselves as working class, but actually we were doing really well. And we had nice lifestyles. You know, people from very, very normal backgrounds were able to get decent mortgages, drive a nice car, go to work, enjoy holidays. That has gone. That has gone. And we know why. You know, people like Gary explain it to us in layman's terms. It's because of inequality. It's because, the finances of the world and that corporate, you know, sort of landscape has just gone completely bonkers. But the more we can talk about that, and the more we can poo-poo some of the pushback from very, very wealthy people. I mean, one of my favorites is like, oh, well, if we tax the rich, you know, they're all going to leave. And I'm like, that's fine. I've got a spare suitcase here because I can't afford to go on holiday. I'll help you pack, love. Go, because if you don't want to contribute to society and making this country great, I don't want anything to do with you. And so, I think the biggest opportunities we have is to continue to organize normal, average people to come together, listen to one another. But the biggest thing that we really need to push is to tax wealth and not work, because we need to get the working class communities to understand that no one's going to do anything for them unless it's the Green Party. Nobody is happy to put a wealth tax through because they're all very wealthy, whereas we're not.
And then, I don't know, again, even going back to like social media as well, it seems like there's no greater white knight for the billionaire and his bank account, or mostly his bank account, than the fellow on minimum wages voting reform. I don't get it, but we're going to hopefully try and understand them as the next couple of years go on as we move towards the next general election, because, well, ideally we'd like to sway a few of them back maybe to a much more rational position. But Olga, final word, I suppose, before we call a close to our maiden episode. I suppose repackage the question. What opportunities are you hoping to create for Surely Greens now going forward, or just the Greens in general, because you are in that position, you're in a seat, so you're in a position of influence. So I suppose what opportunities are you hoping to carve out maybe? What's the ambition going forward?
I mean, I think it's a fantastic moment for us. We obviously will carry on campaigning for more seats, and the Green Party experience is that once you've got one seat, then you've gained the trust of some people, and you can build on that. I mean, it's a really important time for the Green Party generally, isn't it? Because one of the reasons why our message is so contested and the trolls are out there is because our message, thanks to Zach, is really out there. People are talking about us, and that is, I tell you, there was a long time when nobody knew who we were, and when we were campaigning. So it's wonderful to have that, and so we, as Suzie said, we're listening to people. We're out there listening to people. We have a voice, and I've been put on lots of committees as part of my new councillor role, so I can see what my council has been doing on climate change, but we can ask them to go further. I have a voice for my residents. That's a really important part of it, and I bring to it what Suzie was saying, that listening, that concern, that standing up for people who the system at the moment is really not supporting, and that feels like that is an honour to be an advocate for people, even in the smallest things, because people need to be listened to. We're demonstrating at every level of our organisation people power, and that gains people's trust. So I think it's a really important time. I mean, I'm a soul green, so there's a limit to what I can do, but I can stand up for my residents. I can stand up for green values. We can, I think we can all safely, as we've mentioned, so many parties now have to kowtow to their, including the Labour Party, to their funders and their donors, and we can speak truth to power, and I intend to. So, I think that we're in a very exciting moment. It's hard work. We all have to create the capacity for it, but I think we've seen we're doing that, and so yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years. Of course, a big part is of the moment of which I've been elected is the local government reorganisation. So just making sure that all the good qualities of local councils don't get diluted in this will be a major part of the kind of work I'll be doing too, because the important thing is that we have a democracy that listens to the people who are voting and doesn't run roughshod over them, as we've seen for years with austerity and with the kind of profit making that we've seen. So there is a green in the room, and that for me is a very exciting prospect.
Yeah, and just making sure as well, I suppose, like the people have that visualization of their voice being heard as well, because I mean, when all's said and done, people en masse can become disengaged when they just have that perception of
Exactly.
not being heard, nothing happening, and the old, well, what's the point in voting? The changes nothing anyway, and then we've seen that that's not true over especially the last 12, 13 years with various elections.
Yeah.
But it's about trying to still dispel that myth as well, that votes don't matter and nothing changes, and that all parties are the same as
Yeah.
well, and partly maybe part of the rationale as well as the reasons why parties like the Greens and Reform are doing well is because status quo parties just haven't delivered that.
Exactly.
So people are properly actively searching, and like you said, we're in this moment now where we're being given an opportunity to deliver. So we kind of now need to do that. We're seeing the return with regards to people voting in councillors like yourself.
And I think that's a really important point, that people are fed up with the status quo, and so anybody who's active, who's doing what democracy was set up to do, is really important. And we're giving real answers, and in semi-rural areas like our own, so many people need sort of the environment around us for not to be develop more and more and more, but for a sort of balanced life of well-being. So I'm hoping that that need for change becomes a need to kind of to vote in the kind of solutions that we're giving, because they're very authentic ones, aren't they?
And I think that's a lovely part to end there as well. Like, just with that recognition that, we're growing. I think we're having an influence, definitely, and people that the voters are starting to, well, just generally starting to see that as well. Like, and again, it's getting reflected in the votes that we're winning, even if we're not getting seats at times, but we're getting a greater share of the vote. We're getting councillors elected and the membership as well, as noted by you guys earlier as well. That the membership's definitely expanding as well. So, with that in mind, I mean, we'll speak to you guys again soon. I'm absolutely sure. I hope you've enjoyed the first episode. It's went better than I thought it was going to, because I thought I was going to do some type of technical mess up there. But no, I think I've navigated it all right. I'll give myself some credit. So with that in mind, we'll see you again next time, guys. But we'll close by, I suppose, just saying that anybody that's watching, thank you for giving us your time. Certainly like, share, and subscribe. We will be having a whole host of interesting greens and those who would like to speak to us on these channels from now on. So do like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. So with that in mind, good luck.